when you're defending somebody, you've got to understand that it is not your job to prove your client guilty. It is the state's job to prove your client guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
So someone blows a .09 and thinks the case is already over. Is it?
No, not at all.
Why not?
Well, one of the things that I have really focused on in the last few years is the number of false positives and medical related defenses that individuals can have that are DUI or DWI. You can run the list of all sorts of different issues. And then on the front end of the case, do they have probable cause to pull you over? Do they have probable cause to place you under arrest? Do they properly follow the procedures associated with providing? There is in Maryland what's called a DR-15 advice of rights. And it's this big, long, single spaced form that the officer has got to read to the defendant. And they often screw it up. But really, one of the things that I think has been highly overlooked is individuals with medical complications and how some consumption of alcohol can lead to exacerbation of medical issues. I have hired experts. I've had a number of different cases. Sleep apnea is a big underlooked potential issue for clients. Medical mixing. Wrong charge. Clients high on marijuana. They're not consuming alcohol. And, when you're defending somebody, you've got to understand that it is not your job to prove your client guilty. It is the state's job to prove your client guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And so, really, it's a little scary, actually. I've had the sleep apnea one, it kind of hits close to home. I actually have obstructive sleep apnea. And probably 6 years ago, I had a client, and nicest guy. He was a teacher, and he was driving home from a happy hour, and he said, "Man, I didn't have that many. I had like 2 drinks, and I didn't." And he didn't blow, so there wasn't an issue with the breath test. But he kind of swerved off the road, and I said, "Hey, have you ever been tested for sleep apnea?" And he said, "No." And ultimately, him as well as probably about a dozen other defense clients since then, I have gotten tested for sleep apnea. They have tested positive for sleep apnea, and then they've been able to get treatment for their medical issue that they didn't know they had. And we were able to deliver, an extremely positive result in their criminal case as well. So I'm a little passionate about some of these medical issues that do occasionally pop up.
That's an interesting twist. So, if someone has this is kind of adding 2 things on top. If someone has a professional license, like a nursing license, contractor's license, a CDL, how does a DUI conviction change the math for them?
So you're always under Maryland law, if you are convicted or receive what's called a probation before judgment, you are required by the court to complete some sort of alcohol education program. If you have a professional license, most of the time, the professional body on a first offense is not necessarily going to take any action. However, I've represented some individuals before. Paramedics have had to do additional layers of treatment. Nurses have had to do additional layers of treatment. Different individuals with different types of licensing, the regulatory agency will take kind of different action depending on the facts and circumstances of the case. But always, you've got to deal with the underlying treatment-related issue and seek treatment for alcohol, drugs, pills, you name it.